My Best of 2018 series continues on with my favorite eye products from this past year. We're going to be talking about eyeshadows, eyeliners, mascaras, brow products, and if you're interested in hearing what my favorite eye products were from this past year, then just keep on watching. So just a quick update on why I took a couple days off from YouTube and from life in general, but I got a kidney infection and I ended up not having the right antibiotics at first, and then I had to get stronger ones. Anyway, I'm finally on the mend now. I'm feeling so much better, still not 100%, and the littlest things make me very tired. Like I almost couldn't film this because after putting on my makeup, I was like, that took a lot out of me. I also am just really bored of laying in bed. So anyway, thought I would just get up and film. I hope I don't look too crazy. But let's get to this best of eyeshadow eye product list from 2018. I'm going to start with large palettes. So I used one today that I absolutely love. I don't talk about too much, I think because it's one of those products that is just, it's such a workhorse. It pairs up with any other product you have in your collection. So it just ends up kind of like being in the shadows, like it's always there. It's like that dependable friend. She may not be your most exciting friend, but she's always there for you. So that would be the Viseart Grand Pro Volume 1 palette. This came out, I believe, in January of 2018. This appeared in my January favorites, and this has 30 matte shades from Viseart. If you're a fan of Viseart, if you're a fan of matte shadows, if you're a fan of Viseart matte shadows, this is like your wet dream. This is the most amazing all matte palette I have ever come across. And since I have purchased this, unfortunately, I actually even haven't gone to my other Viseart 12-pan palettes, which have always kind of appeared in my favorites, or like my Sephora VIB sale recommendations, like the neutral mattes I love, the warm mattes, the cool mattes, the dark mattes, like I love all of them. But because I have this, every time I think of like, I just wish I had like a matte blah, 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 if I'm using like a different palette, I'll pull this one out. This pretty much covers the gamut. And if you don't see a color in here that you're looking for, you can most likely make it. So all of like Viseart shadows, especially their mattes, they just blend beautifully. They actually blend. They don't just kind of work together where you'll see both of the colors and they just kind of play nice. They'll actually blend. Like when you actually blend red and yellow together, you'll get orange. When you blend yellow and blue together, you'll actually get green. So you can pretty much like take a look at this palette and just kind of play around with it. And what I like to do is just grab a brush, I'll pick up a lot of one color, I'll put it on the back of my hand, and then I'll tap into another color, add that to the back of my hand, and I'll mix them together. And you'll see them like turn into a whole brand new color. And then I can work off of the back of my hand onto my eye. And then, you know, much like if you have ever painted or whatever and you work off of a palette, same idea. I just use the back of my hand as a palette since these are powders and not creams. So for my eye look today, this dark color is actually a mixture of this really bright purple and this brown. So I basically wanted this purple, but just not quite as bright. I wanted it just a little bit more earthy. And so adding this kind of cooler tone brown in there really gave me like a nice kind of like plum shade. And then what I used in the transition is like a mixture of this orange shade and this pink shade, because I wanted something a little bit lighter and brighter, like a lighter, brighter version of this orange. And so mixing this pink, which basically does that to this orange, kind of gave me this, you can see it like in my socket line area and sort of like blend it into that plummy purple that I made. And so you can kind of create like your own sort of like color story and color palette with all of the colors in here. You can like look at one color and like want to tweak it, and it's so much fun. And of course, you don't have to do any mixing at all if you don't want to. You can use the colors right out of here. Like it has this great transition shade, this like wonderful mustardy shade, these bright colors in here. Like it just is such a wonderful, wonderful palette. I love the quality of this palette. I love the actual palette itself. All of these shadows are magnetized and you can just pop them out, much like their Theory palettes, much like their new Slim Pro palettes. You can just pop them out. So if you have a bunch of Viseart palettes, you can kind of like mix and match, which is what I do sometimes when I travel. I'll take one Theory palette, like usually I'll pick my cashmere one because that's the most neutral, and then I'll like pop one of those browns out and maybe I'll put in like this blue or again, I'll put in this like mustardy color, or just something to kind of like shake up that palette a little bit if I want a little bit of something different. So this is definitely one of my picks for best large palettes from 2018. The next large palette I wanted to mention is the Bronze Seduction from Pat McGrath. This palette is gorgeous. This has probably appeared in most people's best of 2018, but this was released this past year. This is the newest of the Mothership palettes from Pat McGrath, and it's just stunning. I love all the colors in here. They blend beautifully, Pat McGrath quality, all of those things. This red color is so special. It's not like a blood red. It's a little bit lighter. There's like a little bit of a shift in there. It's so unique. See, it like shifts a little bit like orangey, foily. Oh my God, it's just stunning. And it's so smooth looking. Oh, so beautiful. All of these shades are so fantastic. These two shimmery shades are great. All of these matte shades blend out beautifully. These are a little bit dark for me, but if I want to go for a fun dramatic look, which is generally why I reach for Pat McGrath palettes, it's fine. Like I can blend this out. I can blend it into this like creamier satin shade and it blends out beautifully. And so I can definitely make it work. Of course, I can just pull in a shadow from a different palette like the Viseart Grand Pro if I need a little bit more help with blending. But in any case, all 10 shadows in this palette are just stunning. They're just absolutely beautiful. And I love this palette. I love this palette. There really isn't much more to say. I made a dedicated video to this. And like I just said, I feel like everyone has probably included this in their best of. So this is another pick for my best of 2018. And then the last large palette I'll mention for 2018, this is probably no surprise for you guys. This is the Natasha Denona Gold palette. I just absolutely love this palette. I think this could be my favorite Natasha Denona palette. It is just wonderful. It's so much fun. If you love browns and if you love golds, there is like no other palette out there for you. You can just stick with the mattes and create like just a really natural, earthy kind of look. You can, of course, throw in any of these golds and like immediately amp it up. And of course, you've got these blues in here and this like duochromy, like greenish, goldish color in here to add like a lot of fun to your look. So I love the entire color story of this palette. I think the formula and the performance of these shades are very Natasha Denona. I think they're just absolutely beautiful. I think they work beautifully. I think they blend beautifully. I love all of the different golds. I remember when she announced this palette, you know, teaser started to come out and people were like, I don't want a palette of all golds. Like, what am I going to do with that? And I appreciate that. Like that, this is a lot of gold to handle, but talk about taking like one idea and really seeing it through. Like she really went there. She was like, I'm going to do a gold palette and I'm going to come up with every single type of gold I could possibly think of. She has like a cool white gold here. She has the most like golden 24 karat type of gold here. One with some brown in there, one a little peachy, a cool toned like brown one that looks like a little bit more antiqued. Like she really just built out this one idea of gold and I love it. I think it's absolutely beautiful. So definitely a favorite from 2018. All right, let's move on to smaller palettes. And since I just talked about Natasha Denona, let me just throw out the Camel palette here. This has been like my best buddy since I got this. I have brought it on every trip that I've gone on. It is for me just like the perfect everyday kind of palette. I love it. It's got like great mattes in there. It's got a couple of shimmers to amp up your look a little bit. The formula is great. I don't find like the formula has been compromised in this 5-pan palette. I know sometimes there's a difference between her formulas with like the larger palettes and maybe her limited edition 5-pans or her like really small mini palettes. Those don't seem to kind of perform the same, but this to me performs just like all of the great Natasha Denona shadows that I've come to know and really, really love. And so this has just been a really, really wonderful eyeshadow palette for me. I've come to really kind of like depend on this palette. Another small eyeshadow palette that I really love is this Chanel Claire Obscure palette. This came out with their Le Matte de Chanel collection, I believe, that came out this fall. This is that matte formula that they started releasing over the past couple of years, and I just love this formula. I am not the biggest fan of the typical Chanel quad formula, those baked shadows that are kind of you know, sparkly and they're very powdery, and sometimes I don't feel like they're very pigmented. But these shadows are a completely different animal. They are very creamy. They actually remind me of the Natasha Denona matte shadows. They're really creamy. They don't feel like terribly powdery. They have such high pigmentation that I don't think these mattes are necessarily like the easiest mattes to use. I think you have to take it really easy. You have to like lay them down with like really, really light layers and blend before you move on. Blend before you like add another layer. Really blend out before you go on with another color. But if you take that time, I feel like you get really beautiful, well blended, smoky, smoked out kind of looks. And you guys know me, I'm pretty basic, so I really love this quad. I just think a quad like this is like that little black dress in your wardrobe. You can just never have enough. But this is just a great everyday kind of like work appropriate quad. I just love it. And of course, I have to mention one of the Pat McGrath 6-pan palettes. The Dark Star palette was my absolute favorite from her releases this past year. This palette to me is so unique. It's so dramatic and dark and smoky, but it's not a very typical looking palette at all. And this Interstellar shade right here, this like blue one in the corner, is so interesting and different. And it just has the most fun kind of like duochrome effect going on. There's like, it kind of goes to like this smoky, grayish, purpley kind of color. It's just so, so interesting. Of course, we'd expect nothing less from Pat McGrath. I think the color story is a lot of fun. I think you can do a very kind of basic smoky look if you just use these 3 colors. You've got a gray, a black, and like a satiny champagne color. Very simple smoky look can be done with that. And then you can throw in one of these 3 colors and really make it, you know, really different in a way. So I really enjoy this one. So I do have an honorable mention. I haven't had this quad long enough, I think, to really kind of make it one of my best of 2018s. But if I were to do like a December favorites, this would appear in there. So this is the Super Nouveau quad from Tom Ford. I love this one. This one is really, really beautiful. I really like all the new quads that he came out with. The quality of all of them are top notch. It's not like there's like one dud in the bunch. There isn't one with like a dud shadow in the bunch. I think they all perform really, really well. But this color story, you know, is just, it's just very, very me. It's just really, really beautiful. And again, I made an entire video on this one quad, and so I don't want to like really repeat myself, but I think this quad, it's a little bit more versatile than you think. It can lean warm, it can lean cool. The shadows, I think, are very consistent with Tom Ford quality, and I just really love them. I just love this color story. And this like dark taupey shade is just really beautiful on the lid. So anyway, the Tom Ford Super Nouveau would be my honorable mention for best of 2018. There are a couple of single shadows that I want to talk about. The Surratt lid lacquers that came out this past year, these are like an eyeshadow that I want to say falls between like an eye gloss and a cream shadow. So they're not quite as dense as a cream shadow, but they're definitely not quite as like goopy and messy as like a typical eye gloss. This is in the color Shoe Eero. It's the red one. I have all of the colors, but this is the one that I really, really love and that I've used the most. So it does not completely dry down. It definitely stays like tacky on the lid. And for me, so long as I didn't use like too thick of a layer, so long as I kept the layer of the lid lacquer fairly thin, I didn't find that it creased or like melted or moved at all during the day. I wouldn't set it down because I want to keep like the gloss effect to it. So I just really, really love these. I thought these were really unique. These were really, really different. I think the eye gloss has been attempted, and I think it's great for editorial purposes, for photo shoots and things like that. But I think for just everyday wear, it really has never been that successful. And then cream shadows are like a completely different beast. But this really is, I think, the closest you can get to that glossy editorial look without it being like messy and just completely unwearable. These are just really great for like the everyday. So the Surratt lid lacquers, definitely a best of 2018. And then I'm really trying not to mention any limited edition products, but I believe these are still available. These are the Ombre Premier shadows from Chanel, and I had purchased all of these from their Libre collection. These are the ones that have like the little lion head emblem on there. So this is the Couvre Lame color, and it's like a copper color. These shadows are like this baked gelée formula that is so stunning, so absolutely beautiful, so pigmented, really easy to use and blend, and they're just absolutely flawless. I love these. And then I just pulled out another one. This is Vert Lame. So this is like a really kind of like a blackened olive green. Oh, I love this one. It's so cool. It looks black in some lights, green in others. This to me is like the perfect kind of like smoky eyeshadow. If you don't want something that's just straight up black, this could be your answer because that little bit of green and gold in there really gives it a lot of interest. So I just had to mention these, even though I think these are limited edition, but I think they're still available. All right, moving on to eyeliners. I don't think any of these are going to be a huge surprise to you, but I love the Tom Ford Eye Kohl Intense eyeliners. These have appeared in so many of my favorites. These probably were in my 2017 favorites. I can't even remember. I just pulled out one color. This is Midnight. I love Metallic Mink, which is like this metallic brown. I feel like have most of them at this point. Bruise I use a lot, which is like a purpley, metallic, like purpley color. They're just really, really beautiful. They stay put. They're easy to use. They're just really, really great eyeliners. Oh, I have one sitting out here. What color is this? This one's Metallic Moss. This is like a metallic green. So there's Midnight. There is Metallic Moss. And I just love these pencils. Like, they're no surprises. They're not really soft and like glidey. They're not really stiff in any way. They last a long time. They last all day on my eyelids, my waterline, my tight line area. They're just wonderful. I think they're great, and I really, really love the color range. I think that's what makes, for me, this line of eyeliner really, really stand out, because I just love the color range. And the other eyeliner that I always use is from Pat McGrath, her Permagel Ultra Glide eyeliners. These are a little bit more like soft and glidey than the Tom Fords. So I feel like I have to wait just a couple more seconds longer than the Tom Ford for them to set. So like if I tightline with these, I kind of try not to blink for like a little bit. Otherwise, sometimes it'll transfer underneath my lower lash line. But if I wait, I find that this, it sets down. And again, same like the Tom Ford, doesn't budge. They're really easy to use. I just find them to be a touch softer than Tom Ford, which is fine. And then liquid eyeliners. This has been my longtime favorite, but 2 new colors were released this past year, and I think they're really beautiful. So these are the Surratt liquid eyeliners, and 2 new colors came out. I can't remember the exact names, but one is like an indigo blue, and one is like a purple. And I think what's so special about the Surratt eyeliners is their tip. They're just these really beautiful brush tips, but they're not too flimsy. So you have a lot of control, but enough flexibility to actually create a line. So I find these like more flexible than like a felt tip, but not as flexible as like a full-on like brush tip. And speaking of brush tip, these are, I believe, limited edition also, but I think they're still available. But this is the Chantecaille Le Pearl liquid eyeliner, and I really love the color Violette. This is the one that's like a purpley, brownish, glittery kind of eyeshadow, and this has like a brush tip. But I find this brush tip to be, very easy to use. It takes maybe a little bit more practice than something like the Surratt brush tip, but this color and this formula is so wonderful. The glittery parts like never like chip off and like fall into your eye midday, which I feel like sometimes can happen. It goes on really nicely. I feel like it sets down in like a normal amount of time. I don't feel like it set down like I was surprised at how quickly, or I don't feel like it stayed wet for too long. And this color is just stunning. I will definitely link to this down below. I think it's still available. The last time I checked, I think it was. So anyway, the Chantecaille Le Pearl Violette liquid eyeliner, definitely a favorite from 2018. And then when it comes to eyebrows, I've got nothing new here. Tom Ford Fiber Brow Gel is still my precious, precious baby. I love this. This is what I feel like I always use when I do my eyebrows. If I use a pencil, I'll use a pencil first, and then I'll go in with this on top of it. I'll use a pencil if I feel like I want really kind of like bold eyebrows. But this is great. This is all I have on my brows today. This is a great like everyday kind of brow tamer. It's more of a pomade versus a gel. This doesn't make your eyebrows crisp like the Anastasia Beverly Hills clear brow gel, where it will like, your brows are not moving, but I also feel like I put glue in my brows. You won't have that feeling with this. There are little bits of fiber in there, so it really thickens up your brows, and I just love it. I love the little spoolie on here. I feel like it's the perfect size for my brows. I have relatively sparse brows, but I have like long hairs, and because they're sparse, you would think I would need to use like a pencil, but if you just kind of graze the spoolie along your skin just ever so slightly in like the balder spots, you're basically like coloring it in, but with this brow gel, and it's been great. I absolutely love this product. I have, I think, a couple of backups in my drawer because there were rumors that this was being discontinued. I don't know. So far, it was like I heard that was happening, I think, last summer, and then it never really came to fruition. So hopefully they shelved that idea. Hopefully they burned that idea, because I don't know what I would do if this went away. I would be very, very upset. And then mascara. Admittedly, I'm not like a mascara connoisseur. I have really wimpy, non-existent lashes. So for me, mascara is always a chore. I really don't like applying it. I don't think it does much for my eye look, but I will mention one. Well, let me mention two, actually. The one that I really enjoy and have enjoyed, I want to say for most of this year, is the Le Volume de Chanel from Chanel. This is kind of like an oldie but goodie. I think most people are aware of this mascara. I've been using little sample sizes of this because they just continuously give them to me every time I go into the boutique. But I love the brush. The formula is great. It really does add a lot of volume to my brushes. It's a very waxy formula, so it does help keep the curl. But a mascara that is really relatively new to my collection, so I'm like a little hesitant in mentioning it, but I can't stop using it, and it's actually made my entire mascara experience like so much better. But this is the Edward Best Wish Granted Magic in a Bottle mascara, and it's all about the wand. This like Christmas tree shaped wand is awesome. It like really grabs my lashes, I guess because there's just a gazillion and a half bristles on there. But it really grabs and holds onto my lashes, and it really makes sure that each one of my lashes, like all 10 of them, are coated in mascara, where I feel like most other brushes, like I really kind of have to like try and get in there. And again, my lashes are so flimsy that they kind of do their own thing. And, you know, I just end up kind of like tapping the mascara onto it. I don't feel like I'm really getting in there and brushing them on. This is the first time I have felt like I have been able to like really get my mascara on. And when I watch people on YouTube, like, you know, put their mascara and like wiggle it around, I really have never been able to do that until this mascara, until this wand. So this is, I'm telling you, I've only had this since December, but this is it. This is the one. This is my mascara pick of 2018. The Edward Best Wish Granted Magic in a Bottle mascara. Oh, I have totally missed something. So my favorite eye primer, before I forget, is the NARS Tinted Smudge Proof Eyeshadow Base. I've had this, I want to say, for like the latter half of the year. I had the untinted, like the regular eyeshadow base from NARS before, and that one was like thicker, and I don't really like a thick eyeshadow base. I like can't use the MAC paint pots. I get melia from them. I get melia pretty easily from anything that's just too thick. So this one is a little bit thinner, but I also like that it's tinted because it just is just a nice another layer of like evening out anything else that may be going on my eyelids. So I've really been enjoying this. I have this on today. It really works beautifully. It's just, you know, it's just slightly tacky. It's not too tacky where I feel like it makes blending eyeshadow hard. And it's, you know, just smoothing, but not too smooth where I feel like my eyeshadow isn't even sticking. It's just a really nice eyeshadow base. So I wanted to mention that before signing off, but I think that's it. But those are my best of eye products from 2018. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what some of your favorite eye products were from this past year. Also let me know, like, if I mentioned something and you just hated it, like, oh, I hate that eyeshadow palette or whatever. I'd be curious to hear like your side of it also, just, you know, just to get like a different perspective on it. And subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you in my next video.